From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, around the world, good to have you here. You have reached the Badass Counseling Show. I am the host, Sven Erlandson. Whether you are tuning in from South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, or anywhere in beloved Canada, it's great to have you here. And, of course, Montana, South Dakota, and right across the Midwest, the Great Plains states. Good to have everyone here, as well as in the UK. I'm joined in studio by Casey over in the booth. She's waving to all of you. And Rob the Rocket sitting next to me. Rob, hello, sir.
Good day, Sven. Lovely to see you as always. You know, sometimes we have audio difficulties, and we didn't today, but last time we did, and people were saying it was because Mercury was in retrograde. Huh. Do you believe in that kind of stuff?
Do I believe in technical difficulties? Yes.
Yeah, that I know. Me too. But what about the Mercury in retrograde gave us trouble?
I will be very honest with you. I consider that stuff just like I consider computers. I know nothing about it.
I believe in the unbelievable, so I think I'm okay with it.
I do too. So there we go. I know nothing about retrograde. I have been called a reprobate before, so we've got that. All right. So, Rob, can you tell us about Brenda?
I'd be happy to, Sven. Brenda is our guest, and she starts her message saying, "Hello, my badass new family." Her message subject was, "Please help me to heal. I really don't know where to begin, but I promise I will be that individual who blows your mind with my story, and in return, I need you to push me so hard. I'm so close to letting go of all the things that stop me from healing. Because of you, and this is 100% no BS, I let my guard down for the first time in my life. I hit the fuck it point. With the help of your books and podcast, I've started the journaling process, which I've been putting off pretty much my whole life. Bottom line, I'm ready to heal, Sven, and willing to visit the ugly hellfire to do so. God bless you for helping me and so many others."
Brenda, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure's mine. Let's get to work. So you, in your autobiography, this was different. I honestly think, Rob, that this was a first for us.
A teaser, yes.
Where somebody writes in an autobiography and literally tells us nothing of what they're struggling with. However, you do say you don't know where to begin, and so therefore I shall. We are on my agenda. So the question I want to ask you, Brenda, is what at present is the single biggest problem or question afflicting your life? What is bogging you down the most at this very moment?
We share custody of my son, my ex and I, and we've been probably apart, I think now 13 years, and he is an alcoholic and was not when we were together. We split up then because of alcohol, and he's just, I worry for my son. I worry for my soon-to-be 16-year-old son.
Specifically what? What do you worry about the very most? If this is the largest worry in your life presently, what above all else, if you were to distill it down to one sentence, is it that you're struggling with?
That something will happen to my son tragically while his dad is driving with him under the influence, and I didn't save him from that.
Understood. I can understand why that is a significant fear. Let me ask you this. Is his alcohol tendencies and alcoholism and so forth, is it to the point where there's anything that the law can do?
That's what I'm struggling with. My son and I have a pretty good open communication. He doesn't want me to do anything like that yet. He says he has it handled, so I'm just torn. I'm torn.
Okay, so then that implies that if you were to get the law involved, that you would have a leg to stand on, because clearly, I mean, if he was just drinking a lot, you wouldn't be able to call in the law because they'd say, so what? So he's drinking a lot. He's drinking in his own home. Or, what are you saying that the law would actually consider actionable?
Picking him up from school events under the influence. I work for a school system that he goes to.
Okay.
So it's right on campus, I'm right by him. So I've talked to him about maybe just going back into school and give mom a call. I'll be there in 3 minutes and I'll take care of dad. This isn't your problem.
Mm-hmm.
And want you safe. And then, but I understand too. I mean, everybody says you got to just tell them not to get in the car. Well, it's not that easy, when you got a father under the influence going, get your ass back in this car.
What do you think your son's greatest fear is in confronting your husband, ex-husband, or more importantly, what do you think your son's greatest fear is in one sentence or less if you get involved and call the law? What does your son fear happening if you get involved? Because even if he even if he gets in the car, you can't expect the son to stand up to his father, especially if the father is being antagonistic, especially if he's 17 and, the power is still vested in the father at that point. What does your son fear, though, if you get involved and call the police and say he's under the influence, I'm not letting him ride with my son or whatever? What does he fear if you get the police involved?
I'm not sure if he fears. I guess speaking with you right now, I guess it's maybe what I fear.
What's that?
I guess that Riley will be upset with me, that it will ruin the relationship that his dad and I have carried on for so many years without the alcohol. And, because we still get along great. We co-parent great. But when the alcohol comes in, it just, it's
Wait a
night and day.
minute. You're saying that you believe your son. I asked the question of what do you think your son fears that causes him to not want you to involve the law. And you say, I think he fears what I fear, and that is that it would harm the relationship between his father and me. You believe your son fears harming the relationship?
I'm not sure what he fears, to be honest with you.
If you were to speculate, what do you think your son most fears in this situation? You know him as well as anyone. What do you think his fear is in this situation of you getting involved with the law?
That dad will act out and that he caused conflict, that it will draw attention
to himself, to your son.
Correct.
Right. No, and no doubt that would definitely be part of it. He doesn't want to create a scene because then he looks, weird or bad or whatever in front of his friends. But also, I would offer that he fears potential blowback from his dad, fears it harming his dad, because as so many children are, particularly children of alcoholics, particularly just children in general, protective of their parents. But also, he potentially fears the father being mad at him or it's somehow fracturing his relationship with his dad. Because whether you like it or not, and I'm not saying you don't, but your son probably still very much loves his father. So yeah, there's a lot at stake there. Okay, so then to you, what is your greatest fear in this equation of you involving the police?
I don't really know what it is. It's just I feel bad because...
What do you fear happening if you were to involve the police because your son's safety is of utmost importance to you? That's what you presented, that's your biggest concern, fear, worry in your life right now. That if that is your biggest fear, you fear involving the police because you most fear, in one sentence or less, what do you most fear happening if you do?
Being able to co-parent happily.
I see. And the goal of happy co-parenting is what?
My son's happiness and how I see him turning out as a teenager.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And two parents co-parenting, well, God bless you. If you can pull that off, and it sounds like you are, God bless you for that. I respect that. Let me ask you this. What do you see as the fundamental goal of parenting?
To raise a child to be independent and be able to go off on their own and raise a family and have a job and not be on drugs, not be on alcohol, just be able to maintain their life.
Sure. Just out of curiosity, why, and I know this is going to sound like a dumb question, but I'm an idiot, so I'm good at dumb questions. My question is this: why is it important for your child to not be on drugs or on alcohol?
Because my oldest child's dad was a drug addict. She's a beautiful woman. She's a mother and I'm a grandmother.
What's the purpose? Why is it a priority for you to not have your child on drugs or alcohol? Why is that a priority? What do you fear happening?
It's a dead end road. It's toxic and it would break my heart to see them go through that.
It's toxic. And what do you mean by it's toxic?
It ruined your life. I've done it. I've done it with my
All
ex.
right. So alcohol and drugs can ruin your life. And how can they ruin your life?
They make you do things that you normally wouldn't do.
Like what?
Not parent your child the way you're supposed to.
Okay, so doing irresponsible things. And if you're not parenting your child the way you're supposed to, what do you, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about her, whatever, then what can potentially happen to the child?
Well, you're taking a gamble. It can go either way, you know?
I guess what I'm getting at is do we teach children to, not do drugs and that sort of thing? Do we teach them that for their happiness, or do we teach them that for something else?
You can't be your full potential. You can't be your authentic self when you're numb and you're drunk and you're
see.
high.
True. Let me ask you this. Are drugs dangerous?
Yes.
And what could happen if a person were on drugs? What could they do?
Hurt somebody, hurt themselves.
Okay, so you're saying that hurting somebody or hurting themselves is bad.
Yeah.
And that you want to raise your child so that they are not doing things that hurt themselves or hurt others. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And yet you are allowing your child to get into a car with someone who is under the influence, and you are allowing your child to do it repeatedly. Don't tell me that you care about your child's safety.
Yep, that's right.
Don't tell me that you care, because what you are fundamentally doing is you are stating by saying, I want to maintain this relationship that I have co-parenting with a husband. For what reason? What good is your son's happiness if he's not alive to tell about it? You are choosing happiness over safety, over protection. Number one parent job is protect. And you are choosing not to. And I want to know, I'm not convinced we've hit it. I want to know what your real fear is. Is it possible, and I could be off on this one, is it possible that your real fear is your son will be upset with you? Because you basically gave the indication, I'm ready to call the police. I would do it, but my son doesn't want me to. So the parents are taking their cues from the child. And I'm wondering, why would a parent take their cue from a child? From a 16-year-old child. Now, you and I both know, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 56. When you're 16, you can call it what you want. But I was an idiot at 16. I was a fucking child at 16, right? Okay. So, and I'm sure he's a good boy. I'm sure your son's a wonderful kid. I have no doubt about that. And you seem like a lovely person. But I want to know, what's your real fear? Because you are allowing your son to make the decision. Now, I am willing to bet if your son had a broken leg and didn't want to go to the doctor, you'd be like, what are you, out of your fucking mind? Get in the goddamn car. We're going to the doctor. You don't get a say. Well, why wouldn't he get a say if he had a broken leg? Because obviously the kid, he doesn't get to make this decision. This is about his health. Well, here, and in a way, a broken leg is not nearly as acute a problem as getting in the car with a drunk driver. So every single time you allow your child to get in the car with a drunk driver, you just remove the possibility of ever giving him a morality lesson on drinking and driving. You can never tell him, don't drink or be responsible or whatever. I mean, in a way, but I want to know, what really is the fear?
I can fear that my son will be upset with me.
Right. And what would happen? What would it feel like if your son were upset with you? Or more importantly, let me ask you this question. I appreciate your honesty, by the way. What would be the one sentence that your son could speak to you that would hurt the very, very most? What would be the one sentence he could say? And not just unique to this situation, just in any situation, what would be the one thing he could say that would just cut right to your core?
I hate you for doing that to my dad.
All right. And I said didn't have to be specific to this situation. I said it could be anything. So would it be reasonable to say that the one sentence you most fear hearing from your son is just, I hate you, and then fill in the blank of what he hates you for? In this case, it's, yes, I hate you for what you did to my dad. But it would hurt to hear that. More than anything, it would hurt to hear that in any situation, right?
Yeah, and I can't trust you because I guess I just need someone to tell me it's okay to do this.
Fuck. Fuck. If that's the only reason you came on the show, Christ, we could have saved 16 minutes and 49 seconds, and I could have told you, it's okay to, not only is it okay to do it, if your child's health, body, life is in danger, it's not okay. It's an absolute necessary. It's absolutely necessary. It's a requirement.
Necessary.
But see, the problem that we're dealing with here, Brenda, is you flat out admitted that it would hurt to hear my son say, I hate you, and that I can't trust you. But I would offer your son's 38-year-old self would probably, if he found himself in my office, I'd say, yeah, your mom, she may have feared that you couldn't trust her, but in the end, you really couldn't trust her because she wasn't doing what was in your best interests.
That's what I fear is I don't want to not protect him.
That is job one. I mean, on the side of cop cars, I don't know what state you live in, but in the side of cop cars, it says to protect and to serve, or serve and protect. And but what I love about this story, about your honesty, Brenda, is you are giving a story that is a testament to the power of how powerful it is, how much we fear not being liked by our children, how much we fear them thinking less of us in the moment, and so on and so forth. And you can count on the fact that your son will be pissed at you. You can count on the fact that he will probably say, I fucking hate you. I told you I didn't want da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the only recourse you have is to say, it's not your decision. And when it's my son's health and safety, I am willing to let you hate me. You can hate me for the rest of your days. If that is what you feel, I completely get it. But this is a non-decision. This is not your decision. Because clearly your decision making, and the simple answer is this. I mean, son, would you get in the car? You're at a fucking party and your friends are boozing, and 3 of them are shit-faced or under the influence. Would you get in that car? That would be my question. And if little Billy says, yes, I would, Mom, then I'd say, then you're not fucking, I'm not letting you go to any parties. It's just bad judgment. No, don't get in the car. Now, I got to be really, really honest. All right? I'm 56. Back in the 80s, we'd get in the car. And it's not good. It's not right. And I still remember Sam Kinnison's whole shtick. You don't drink and drive. How am I supposed to get the car back to the house? I mean, come on. What, a bus pass? So, and it was wrong back then, but it's wronger now. Right? Because it's just not tolerated and shouldn't be tolerated. And so, yeah, you have a fucking responsibility to protect your child. And the price is that your son won't like you. And what do you feel when your son doesn't like you? What would it feel like to know that he's mad at you, and so mad he even says, I hate you? What would that feel like? Tell me about that feeling, Brenda.
It would break my heart. It would break me because it would make me feel like I'm not a good mom to him.
Right. And so that's interesting. It would make me feel like I'm not a good mom to him. In other words, you judge whether or not you're a good mom based on what your child thinks of you.
No, not necessarily.
But you just said that. You just said, what would it feel like? It would break me. It would break my heart. And to know that, he's upset with me or whatever. And I would feel like I'm not a good mom. And so what you're saying is if my son is upset with me or doesn't like me in the moment, I must be a bad mom. And I got to be really honest with you. You're not the only person that struggles with this. I have a very, very dear friend, and she's the mother of one boy and one girl. And she struggles with exactly this. She struggles with this notion of making the hard decisions. And her kids are a little bit younger, all right? Younger than yours. They're not puberty yet. And she struggles with, this idea of not wanting them to be upset with me. And so in those rare times where she's come to me and says, hey, Sven, I'm struggling with this, I say, listen, you do whatever you want. I'm in no position to tell you how to parent your kids, okay? But you're asking my opinion. The opinion is if you are dependent upon your child to meet your needs to be liked, then you are using your child for your needs. The child doesn't exist to meet my needs to be liked, okay? I exist to meet that child's needs to be loved, protection, all those things, right? And so then what often happens, and so you're not alone, Brenda. I am in no way singling you out. Heck, I did it at times too in the raising of my kids. But what happens then is we become fearful of making the hard decisions because I so want this person to like me, and the child doesn't exist to like you. They don't exist to like you. In fact, they need you to be stronger than them. And stronger than them means you're not dependent upon them liking you. Someone was telling me recently about an interview that they saw online where Ben Affleck, the actor, was being interviewed, and he says, "Oh yeah, my child will rage at me. My teenager will rage at me and say, 'I hate you,' and all these things." And he basically says, and I'm cool with that. I love that she's willing to say that. I love that she says it to me, and I basically let her know, good, you're getting it out of your system. That's fine. And she knows by my not getting rattled by it, that I'm a sort of a vessel, as I like to say, a vessel large enough to hold her problems. I'm not going to break just because a teenage girl is mad at her father and hates her father in the moment. And I guess her child, his child will come back and apologize for, saying the mean things. But the bottom line is that he basically says in his own way that the parent has to be big enough in their ability to handle emotional trauma. They need to be big enough to handle that child's anger, because the child is still learning. So now it's back to me talking. The child is still learning how to and what they're feeling and how to let that out and so on and so forth. And the parent has to be bigger than them. But if I'm afraid of my child getting mad at me, I'm going to avoid all the hard decisions. And then the child is going to sort of sail through childhood and believe that this is what reality is. And furthermore, they're going to get into unsafe situations. And oftentimes they'll potentially even just use the parents or take advantage of the parents' fear of being liked. I'm going to come right back to you, Brenda, right after this short break.
I had a really good start in my life, and I've been successful in my career, but I have to say I've learned so much and improved my outlook on life since I met Sven and picked up a copy of Badass Wisdom. With the daily meditations as journaling prompts, I've uncovered a lot of memories that weren't totally pleasant. With Sven's guidance, I've achieved some new understanding, and honestly, I feel lighter. Badass Wisdom is a great read, in nice small bites, and I think anyone can benefit from it. So go to badasscounseling.com and get the book or the audiobook. It could change your life.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, we are back with Brenda. So, Brenda, is it safe to say that you have some newfound sort of sense of clarity and resolution on this topic?
I do.
Great. Then I'm going to give you exactly 3 minutes to tell me what is this mind-blowing story of yours that it's afflicted you your whole life, close to letting go of everything. I'm at my fuck it point. I mean, you tell a hell of a lead up, so I want to know in 3 minutes or less, what the hell are you talking about?
My dad was a minister, such as yourself, and very strict, very, very strict. I rebelled hardcore, ran away, got pregnant at 15, was sent to a foster home, had to have an abortion when I was raised that was wrong. Never talking about it afterwards, no communication, just swept under the rug. And so I know that's a lot of it stems from that. And then I was in a very, very abusive relationship with my daughter's father. He was wealthy and we traveled around the world. He was a race car driver, and a lot of physical, mental abuse, a lot of drugs, a lot of just fast life. And then I got pregnant for my daughter and I wanted to change and he didn't. So, actually I left both of my kids' dads because of drugs and alcohol, and they were both 3 years old. It's kind of weird, but I just always knew it wasn't the way it was. I wasn't meant to be there because I know it's wrong. And so I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Sure. And so then let me ask you this question. You said it's hard to feel happy. And why am I not who I used to be? You said you've read the book, you've done the podcast, but not done the journaling. And just out of curiosity, what's the reason you haven't done the journaling?
I was hoping you could help me with that. I don't get it.
Okay, if you were to speculate, what's the real reason? Let me ask you, what do you do for a living? You say you work at your son's school. What do you do for a living?
I do custodial work, like for the schools.
Awesome,
I work at.
And does in any aspect of your life, do you have to use a pen and paper, write notes, write up the reports at the end of the night?
I know how to do it.
You know how to write. Okay, so then it says you obviously don't have an inability to string words together. So then what is the real reason you don't journal? You take a shot at it. You can change your mind in 2 minutes if you want to.
Probably just to feel the shit, which doesn't make sense because
So you don't write
now look
because
where-
you don't want to feel the shit. There we go. You want to know why you're not feeling happy? You want to know why you're not who you used to be? You want to know why? It's because you got all the shit in there and you don't want to fucking touch it. And I'm not scolding you. That is every single one of my clients. That is every single one of the people that comes on this show, that at some point in their life, they just don't want to fucking touch it. And so, and that makes total sense. So it's not that you have struggled journaling. You just don't want to fucking touch the shit. And so it's like, well, how do I make the pain go away without having to, really touch the ugly shit, right? Which is why booze or gambling or cheating or overworking or overparenting or, drugs, whatever, all those things seem to sort of take that shit away. But of course, there's always the hangover, right? What would you say, above all else, of all the shit inside that vault of yours that has all the shit that you don't want to touch, what is the single biggest thing that you most don't want to feel again or most don't want to go into? What is at the top of the fucking food chain?
That I let somebody control me like that I let somebody, when I knew every time I did the wrong things, I know the difference. I know.
I'm curious, why would you letting someone control you, why would that be the one thing you least want to get into or least want to journal about? Why wouldn't it be the trauma of having an abortion at 15? Why wouldn't it be, abusive relationship with your ex? Why wouldn't it be all the fucking crazy life? Why would it be that? I mean, is that really it that you let that's what you're afraid to talk about?
I really don't know because I'm open. I talk to people about things that have happened.
You talk to people, but what are you afraid of then? If you talk to people, then why the fuck can't you journal?
I don't know. That's what I'm
Speculate.
trying.
I want you to speculate. What might it be?
Maybe because I don't even know what my genuine self is anymore. Maybe I don't know how I'll feel. Maybe I'm scared of who I'll be after that. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I'm not bullshitting. Yeah. I just.
Okay.
Maybe angry, maybe upset with my parents for doing that to me. I feel like they raised me one way and they were hypocritical to totally change my upbringing. Everything they brought me to believe in, the rules and their ways, and then when it happened to me, everything changed.
Their rules, their ways, and when it happened to me, everything changed. What happened to you?
Like getting pregnant, abortion. They used to talk about people that had them and kind of in disgust about people that would do something like that. And that was a sin, in our family.
Uh-huh.
And then when it happened to me, then that was the first choice. I had no option.
Okay.
It was either an abortion or we're going to send you to a all girls home, out of state.
Would you have had the child at the all girls home just out of curiosity?
Yeah, but I wasn't able to keep it. Would have had to give
for
it up.
adoption. Just out of curiosity, what denomination pastor was your father?
Baptist, but throughout my life, when he wasn't preaching anymore, we've been probably every religion except Catholic.
Okay.
To be honest.
And so it's reasonable to assume that your childhood was completely controlled by father, mother, etc.
Yeah, my dad was very controlling.
And
to my mom.
Fair enough.
Yes.
And was there abuse in your home growing up?
Verbal.
Yeah. What's the worst thing you remember your father saying to you or to your mother or to anyone else growing up?
Were stupid and that called me a slut. And
was that at the time of getting pregnant, or was that at some other time before?
That I choose because I choose, the wild men that showed up with long hair and, I get it,
You get what?
I get why he would be upset. Wait, I understand it now.
Just so I'm clear, you get why he would call you a slut?
No, I get why he would be upset about the people that I chose to date or whatever.
I see, because they had long hair.
A lot of times he was right there. As I look back, they wouldn't be somebody I'd want my daughter to do with. I get it.
And
now.
So how did it feel then growing up? Would it be safe to say that your father controlled everything in the home?
Yes.
Okay, that's safe to say. And how did it feel having your father control everything and being verbally abusive? How did it feel?
To be honest, I don't remember a ton of my childhood, which concerns me too, but that's a whole nother deal.
But
it hurt.
but you obviously remember, right? It must have hurt. You remember being called a slut. You remember being called stupid.
I just felt like we walked on pins, just
Walked
always
on
like,
eggshells, sort of.
yeah. Like my mom, we'd get home and my mom, my mom would unplug the phone so the phone wouldn't even ring, just shit like that. Just
Why? What was the problem if the phone rang?
because he had a long day at work and he didn't want the fucking phone ringing.
Gotcha. And so you guys walked on eggshells, and he would call you stupid and slut and so forth, and you said that didn't feel good. And let me ask you this: what percent would you say that your life growing up was controlled by your father?
80%.
Oh, so you had 20% that was not controlled. Is that what you're saying?
Just because, yeah, but does it count that I guess it probably, I didn't let him control, like I was very rebellious. So
When did that start?
As long
What
as I
age?
can, like a young teen, 13.
Okay, 13 years old. All right, you began to rebel, but okay, so your dad controlled 80%. Just out of curiosity, what percent of your son's life do you control?
Controlling doesn't mean in a good or bad way, just in general. Control.
Yes.
Well, I'm his mother, so
And
I pretty much control. I don't control his life, but he can't be by himself yet, so I have to help him make decisions. Is that what you mean?
I just mean, when I asked you how much your father controlled your life, you had no problems answering the question. And now when I ask about how much you control your son's life, all of a sudden you don't understand what the word control means. So I'm just, if you were to use whatever structure you used to define control when it came to your childhood, use that same structure to define control when it comes to your son's childhood.
Probably. I was going to say 80%. So that's pretty much the same thing. That's kind of weird. I don't know.
You control your son 80%. So you believe then that controlling a child is good.
I guess maybe controlling and raising a child are not the same word. I guess I'm not answering the question right then. I mean,
no, it's all right.
In a healthy way, yes. In a healthy way.
Okay.
I'm not trying to control him. My dad tried to control us.
Meaning,
I'm way opposite spectrum scenarios, My son is far from who I was, and I'm far from who my dad was, I feel.
Okay. And I'm sure that's true. So you've tried to, well, let me ask it this way. What percent was your dad a good parent, and what percent was your dad a bad parent, as you see it?
20% a good parent, 80% a bad.
What was the good part?
He introduced me to God because I'm a very spiritual person. So I thank him for that. And I thank him for being there every night for me.
Angry and abusive as he was, right? But at least he was there, so that's good. Okay, and what percent was your mom a good parent, and what percent was your mom a bad parent?
60% bad, 40% good.
Oh, wow. And what was it that made your mom a bad parent?
It comes from, my answer to that comes from where I'm at now as an adult looking back, because she didn't protect us. She didn't stand up for us.
Protect and stand up. What should she have done?
Told my dad not to speak to us like that and not allow my dad to speak to her that way, because that just taught us that it was okay to be treated like that. I feel like I followed, you know what I mean? In my upbringing, those are the kind of men that I chose. Whether even though I knew it was wrong, I just did.
So she had an obligation to protect and stand up for you.
Correct.
And yet, ironically, you have not felt the need to protect and stand up for your son when it comes to his physical safety.
I thought of that right when I said it.
Excellent. And you still had the courage to say it. So I respect that. So then, just out of curiosity, as you see it, what percent are you a good parent and what percent are you a bad parent?
80% or 90% good, 10% bad.
Wow. You claim that your mother was a 60% bad parent, primarily because she didn't protect and stand up for you. Yet somehow, even though you don't protect your son's physical body, you are 90% a good parent.
Yeah,
help me understand.
Just a lot of things with my mom. Like, she didn't talk to me. She didn't communicate. Communication is really big real big.
Oh,
And,
so she was a bad parent, not because she didn't protect and stand up for us. She was a bad parent.
That too. In addition, I was.
So in your case, you're 90% a good parent. So not protecting your child is at most only 10%. At most, only 10% of parenting. You're saying I am 90% a good parent, and you flat out admit that you you allow your son to be physically endangered by getting in the car with your ex-husband when he is under the influence. So you can physically endanger your child repeatedly and still be 90% a good parent, is what you're saying. Therefore, protection only accounts for 10% of parenting.
No, I think a lot more than that, the protection.
Well, if you're not protecting your son, then how can you be 90% a good parent, is what I'm wondering.
I guess I'm not 90% then.
I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm just trying to understand the numbers here. That's all. And so let me ask you, as you see it, what percent does a parent have to be a good parent in order for you personally to overall consider them a good parent? And everybody has a different answer to this. Every time I ask a question, everybody has a different answer. So there's no right or wrong answer. What percent of the time does someone have to be a good parent, or what percent do you have to be a good parent in order to overall be a good parent as you see it?
90%.
90%. So then you are flat out admitting that both of your parents were bad parents. Okay. Right?
Yeah, I don't like to say that, but yeah.
Wow. Okay. Oh, that's actually really interesting. You don't like to say that. And what is the reason? And I love your honesty. You're doing great here, Brenda. What is the reason you don't like to say that your parents were bad parents?
There was a lot of good with them. It's just, I mean, people have it way worse than I do. Way, way worse, but.
Why don't you like to say that your parents are bad parents?
I guess because I just.
How does it make you feel when you say, if you were to say your parents are bad parents? Because you've already said your father was literally 20% a good parent. Your mother was literally 40% a good parent. Yet the threshold for being a good parent is 90%. So you're flat out admitting they were bad parents. In fact, your mom isn't even halfway to being a good parent. That would have to be 45%. So I guess what I'm wondering is, how does it feel?
Maybe I'm bad at percentages. I don't know.
No. You chose them. You drew a distinction between how bad a parent your dad was versus how bad a parent your mom was. So you were able to take how they were as parents and put that into a number, and you chose two different numbers. So therefore, you are attaching a thinking process to the percentage. But now that we establish what your threshold is for good parenting, now all of a sudden you're bad at percentages. No. What I want to know is, how does it feel? Give me a feeling word. Mad, sad, bad, glad, frustrated, excited, exuberant, melancholic, blue, under the weather. Give me a feeling word for how it feels if you were to say, my parents were bad parents. What would it feel like? Give me a feeling word.
Dysfunctional. Would that be one?
No, that's a descriptive term, okay. But not of feelings. How does it make you feel inside? Do you feel mad or sad or guilty or betraying, or how do you feel?
Sad.
Why would you feel sad? Talk to me about that. Help me understand. Why would you feel sad to say that your parents are bad parents?
Because I don't want to believe that, I guess.
Oh, wait. So you didn't say, I'm sad because it's not true. You said, I'm sad because I don't want to believe it. In other words, what you're saying is, I don't want to believe it. What? That my parents are bad parents. So you're either acknowledging it's true, or you're saying it possibly is true. Let me ask the question. Why don't you want to believe that your parents were bad parents? Why don't you want to believe that?
Because there was a lot of good they did show me good things too. So I don't.
Okay. And so let me ask you, what was the good thing that your dad showed you? You said he came home every night. Well, that's good. Plenty of people don't have that. And so what was the good that outweighed the 80% bad?
Probably my work ethic that I learned.
Work ethic. Great. And he was at home every night. Okay. And so then, just out of curiosity, what was it that was so bad that made you say he was 80% a bad parent? Well, we know he was verbally abusive, calling you such things as slut and stupid and so forth. What else was your father that made him, that was the 80% side of bad parent?
By just letting me go, like just not working through my rebelliousness, like, just like, how can we work on this together as a family? How can, communicating with me? There was no communication, and just.
And how did that make you feel that they just let you go and they didn't try to work through it and there was no communication?
Back then, I think I did. I just ran from it.
I understand, but how did it make you feel? You wouldn't run from it unless it made you feel something yucky. What did it make you feel?
Like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
That I let them down.
And isn't it interesting? You let them down as you see it. That's how a kid feels. In retrospect, do you feel like you let them down?
Yeah.
Huh. Because I'm looking at it as an outsider, and I'm looking at they let you down. I'm looking at any father who calls his daughter a slut as basically a piece of shit. Are you fucking kidding me? You call your daughter a slut? Really? You call your children stupid? Really? You've already, at that point, you've let your children down. At that point, you've let humanity down. Calling your children names? Really? Now, I'm willing to bet that those two words existed within probably a larger sort of context of other shit he did or said. You said you're always walking on eggshells. So I take that to mean your father had a volatile temper?
Yeah.
Right. And so what we're talking about then is there's verbal abuse. He let me go. He didn't work through the rebellion. There was no communication. And you were made to feel not good enough. But hey, Dad had a good work ethic. And he was home every night. So what you're saying is good work ethic and being home at night is so great as to outweigh verbal abuse, letting your child go, basically chasing him off by not making him not feel good. That teaching you a good work ethic and being home every night is bigger than all of the other stuff. Because you don't want to admit that your dad was a bad parent, even though you flat out admitted it a minute ago that he was 80% a bad parent.
And can I just say one more thing I thought of?
Yeah. Say whatever you want.
All right. Well, like when I married I've only been married once. I didn't marry my second child's father, but my daughter, her dad, when I married into that, he was Catholic and I was raised totally against Catholics, but because there was money involved and they were very wealthy, my dad okayed it. And then it got to the point where the abuse started, years later, and he would physically beat the shit out of me. And my parents didn't protect me from that. They told me to work on marriage and would come clean the house up before anybody saw it. So I think that's a lot of my thought process with my parents.
Well, and you raised that story to make what point?
To again say why I felt like they were bad parents.
Oh, so you are saying that that your dad was a bad parent, that your parents were bad parents. You're saying that. Is that correct?
For some things, yes, they were.
No, I'm asking overall. Were they good parents or were they bad parents?
See, that's where I struggle with the answer.
See, what I would offer, and I understand. What's that?
They were bad parents.
Do you feel guilty saying that?
Yes, I do.
Right. And you feel guilty because why? Because you're doing what by saying that?
Admitting it.
So you're not lying? It's not an untruth? Is it true?
Yeah.
Oh, so you feel bad for telling the truth about your parents?
A little bit. It's crazy, huh?
And no, it's not crazy. I actually see that a lot. And what that means to me is that the child has been conditioned to protect the adult. The child, you've been conditioned your whole life to protect mom and dad, even though dad was 20% a fucking good parent, 20%, and mom was 40% a good parent. Just out of curiosity, I meant to ask you at the sort of near the top of the show, in the parenting of your own kids, just out of curiosity, what percent did you use your dad's parenting techniques in the parenting of your own kids?
Probably zero. I mean,
zero. And what percent of your mom's parenting did you use in the parenting of your own kids?
I just thought of something to parent, percentage wise. Oh, I'd have to think about that a minute, but I just put something together that my mom did what I'm doing to my son right now
In what way?
by not protecting me.
Yeah. We were sort of mentioning that earlier. Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what percent of your mom's parenting technique did you use in the parenting of your own children?
60%.
Wow. You use 60% of her parenting in the parenting of your own children. That's interesting. What's fascinating is you flat out admit you use 0% of your dad's parenting. And yet earlier you said he was 20% a good parent.
I guess zero was bad.
And yet you chose it. You thought about it, and yet you chose it. And now when I call you out on it, you want to backtrack. Just like before, when I brought up the thing about good parenting, all of a sudden you were bad at percentages. Here's what I think. I think you have been conditioned to protect your parents above yourself. I believe that you are conditioned that don't speak the truth, that you always find the good in mom and dad and so on and so forth, even though they really colossally fucked up as parents. And yet you feel guilty, even though they're not here. Are they still alive? Probably not. Are they alive?
My mom is. My dad's passed away.
What do you think the odds are that your mom listens to the Badass Counseling Show podcast?
0.
Okay, so we're in somewhat of a black box here. Your mom's never going to know that you said this shit, and yet you're still protecting your mom and your deceased father from what you've already said is the truth. You are protecting them, and you want to know why you're not healing? The reason you're not healing is because you don't want to look at the truth, and the truth, part of the truth at least, is that you had parents who really fucked up. Dad was a fucking dick, and mom didn't protect you. Right. That's fact. You said it yourself, all right? You said they're bad parents and so forth. And so what you've been doing is all of that rejecting and all of those messages that you don't matter, you've been carrying those around. And you've been living out a life based on that belief system. And you could sort of willpower your way through it. You could sort of make it work until basically lately you said you sort of hit the wall, that you didn't use those words, but you sort of hit the wall and it's hard to feel happy anymore because what you've got down inside of you is all those fucking messages of you don't matter and you're not important and you're a slut and you're stupid and all those fucking messages. And the fact that they pushed you to go back into and fix a relationship with the abuser to make it work. In other words, you matter so little. There's something else that matters more than you, that your safety, your happiness don't matter. You need to make it work with your abuser. Right? Did I hear the story correctly on that?
Correct.
Right. And what do you believe the underlying message is that the parents are sending to the child, whether they intend to or not? What is the underlying message that the adult child is receiving when she's being told to go back in and basically eat the abusive shit? What do you think you were feeling at that time from your parents? What was the message you were getting from them?
That I don't matter.
All right. And yes, that's exactly right. And that just confirmed the message you've been getting since childhood. And guess what? When you believe you don't matter, you tend to get into relationships that confirm that because it was taught to you as normal. Your mom confirmed it. This is normal. This is how you should expect to be treated. And you then just chose relationships that confirm that and confirm that and confirm that. And so then the beautiful part, the fucking beautiful part of the story is then a child comes along. You have children come along and children, they just fucking love you no matter what. And then you can start getting your love from the child. I had a woman say to me once, I want to have children so that I'll have someone who will love me forever. Right. The child's job is to pour love into my love cup, except the problem is the child's job is not to pour love into your love cup. But it becomes, you know how it is. You've raised kids. You know how easy it is to just soak up all their love, and it feels good. And if you've been rejected and put down and told how crappy you are your entire life, it's so easy to become intoxicated by that, all the love that a child has to give. It's like this endless wellspring of love. You know, but the problem is we can't do that. You know, we already talked about that earlier in the show. We can't do that. And so I'm going to be really honest with you, Brenda. I think you're a sweet person. I really do. I really do. I think you have a good heart. But the problem is that you've been taught a lie from the beginning. Can I tell you something that I know? I know for absolute fact that when you were 3 years old, when you were 7 years old, you were a sweet, rambunctious, cute, ornery, rascally, intelligent, creative, brilliant, happy, laughter-filled, pouty, angry when she's had an empty stomach child. Just like every other child, you were wonderful. And somewhere between the womb and right now, you got taught the lie that you're no good. You got taught that you're a piece of shit or whatever else. And so here's the thing. You grew up believing mom and dad are good and they love me. So if I'm not getting love from them, I must be bad because they're good and they love me. So if I'm not getting love, something must be wrong with me. I'm not good enough. Something must be wrong with me. But the problem is, the one thing we established tonight is that mom and dad were really shitty parents. If dad's best quality is that he shows up at the end of the day, we're holding the bar pretty fucking low. No, the reason you weren't getting love wasn't because there was anything wrong with you. There is nothing that could possibly be so wrong with a 7-year-old that she's not getting love. There's nothing so wrong with an 11-year-old. There's literally nothing that would justify an 11-year-old not getting love. There's nothing she could possibly do. So by 11, you're already getting it for 11 years or 13 and so forth. So the reason you weren't getting love had nothing to do with you. You've been wonderful the whole time. It's because they fucked up as parents. Well, what that means is if they fucked up as parents, that means, and the reason I wasn't getting love was because of them, that means I was good. The problem wasn't me. And the biggest sticking point for you is going to be admitting that you had real, parents who really fucked up. They may have been lovely people. Your mom may be a lovely person today. I'm not talking about your mom today. I'm talking about your mom way back then. And she normalized it and she didn't protect you. And it's time that somebody has to protect you. It's time that someone has to go back and protect that 8-year-old little girl. And that's you. That you have to begin to see that and flush those feelings out. You have to begin to write down the stories and feel the truth. And the truth is that you were parented by a couple of fucking amateurs. And it wasn't justifiable, the treatment of you. And that means at some point you have to welcome up all the pain and all the sadness that goes with it. You say you don't remember a lot of your childhood, but today you actually remembered several pieces, and those can be starting points. Any final thoughts or questions for me, Brenda?
Thank you, by the way. Mm-hmm. First off, I guess I would ask, how much communication regarding my son and his father drinking, do I involve him into talking about, do I tell him that I'm going to have to, set your dad up to get pulled over? Do I let my son know that? I guess I don't know how to approach it. I know I need to do things.
Yeah, there are a couple of approaches. One is that you talk it out with your son, and you can count on the fact that he's going to get resistance. And depending on how your son is, he may even attempt to protect your father or not tell you when dad's been drinking. So one approach is you talk about it in advance, but as I said, he may try to protect his father, or he may rebel against you, or he may say, I hate you, or he may really get mad, or he may slam doors and stomp his feet. Another approach is that you just make it happen without ever telling your son. You simply call the police when you know.
That's what, and I already did, to be honest with you. I have something set up that just I won't know when it's happening, Good. So.
And the truth is, if your son ever asks you, my approach is, and this is me personally, it's different for each person. My approach is tell him. If he asks, tell him the truth. Yes, I did. Yeah. And own that shit. Why? Because then he lives in the safety of knowing he's in a world where somebody cares enough about him, that somebody is protecting him. You would have killed to have your mother protect you, even if it made you mad, because a child is going to hate that the family's being broken up. But in retrospect, you wish your mother would have broken up the family to get you to safety so you wouldn't have had to deal with the fucking tyrant. So I'd recommend owning it later, but you're not required to. Brenda, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You were great. You were really honest and open, and you showed us your struggles and your vulnerability. I want to invite you to stick around for after the show. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure was ours. On behalf of KC over there in the booth, eagerly intrigued. She's been tracking this story. I think she wanted to chime in at some point. And Rob, the Rocket, sitting next to me. Any final thoughts, Rob?
Just a lot of comments online of people monitoring our live stream of this while we're recording the podcast. The story is resonating, and so Brenda and Sven, you've helped a lot of people again.
No, it was all Brenda. I just asked the questions. Brenda had the courage to answer them honestly and to go into her shit. So my hat's off to you, Brenda. And thank you to everyone tuning in online. On behalf of the team here, no matter where you're tuning in from, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.